Alright, so here we have two tomato plants. We have a healthy, large plant, and then here we have a plant that's getting a bit leggy from not enough light. There's actually a few things that cause this. So first thing is not enough light. So this little plant here was grown under, or just on a window ledge in the sun. So there was obviously not enough light. You can tell because the color, first of all, it's really light, and also it's very thin. And if you look at this one here, this one was grown under a 6400 Kelvin light. So it's a grow light designed for growing. And I kept moving it up as the plant grew. You can tell that it's much fuller, and also the stem is much thicker. Second thing you want to check when you have a leggy plant is also the pot size. So if you can tell, this is a very small pot, this is a larger pot. This is about a gallon, and this is just a regular solo cup. What happens to the plant, it grows roots almost at the same pace as it's growing the leaves. So if you have a large top like this and a small little pot, it'll stop growing or if it slow down a lot. So you want to make sure your plant on the top is proportional to the bottom, and keep expanding, keep upgrading, keep repotting. So as it gets bigger, put it in a bigger pot. Otherwise you'll have a plant that just stops growing at a certain point. Next thing you want to do with a leggy plant as well is make sure your soil has nutrients. So when you start a seedling, it doesn't need much nutrients because it already has it in the actual embryo of the plant, of the seed. But as it gets bigger and fuller and needs more nutrients to grow the plant itself, make sure you add some kind of fertilizer, whether it's some minerals or something, just so the plant has something to grow with. And here's what I'm using for this plant. So it's just very low number, 444. It's not a very a very strong fertilizer, but why I use it, because it has a lot of things in it: feather meal, bone meal, rock dust, phosphate, potassium. It has things that your plant needs to grow. So it's kind of like taking minerals and supplements for your plants. So that'll help it grow larger. And also one other thing with the plants is if you do have a leggy seedling like this one, for example, what you can do is remove the bottom leaves, which I already did here, and then you can replant it in a larger pot, and you can actually bury a tomato up to here. Like the tomato will put out roots. I don't know if we can see it here. These little bumps here, those little bumps will actually be roots. If I were to bury it right now, the roots would start forming here on the stem of the plant. So that's why with tomatoes it's no problem. If you have a plant that's not doing so well, you can just repot it, put it in a new pot, and it'll put out roots. One thing I also like to do with leggy plants is actually just shake them. When you shake the plant, you're imitating what the wind does in nature, and that kind of does a little bit of damage to the plant in the sense that the cells in there will kind of break up and whatever. But what the plant will do in a few days will start healing itself and start getting thicker. So like you see this plant here, you can hardly bend this. It's a solid plant, and plants will do that naturally in the wind, but when they're growing indoors they don't get any movement, and sometimes they don't even move to look for light, and then they start getting really thin. So just move them around a little bit, make sure the pots are the right size, make sure there's enough minerals, and the most important is the light. Make sure there's enough light, and that should stop you from having leggy tomato plants.